Saving the best for last. I'm so glad you guys are all here today. My name is Charlie Walters and I run a company called CW3PR. This is our 4th year here at Comic-Con doing a music event. How many fans of TV and film music do we have out there? And you've really come to the right place. Please welcome a great, amazing group of talents that breathe life into these projects by bringing their music to your ears. Laura Dickinson, Robert Duncan, come on, Eisler, Danny Jacob, Trevor Morris, Michael Penn, Lizbeth Scott, Mark Shaman, and your moderators today, we have the best names at Comic-Con, Dan Posenmeyer and Jeff Swampy March. Take it away, guys.
When I was small, the world was such a strange place, and that was all.
I've been a guitar player my whole life. I always loved producing records. I did a lot of people's demos. I also used to work for that unknown composer named Hans Zimmer, and he let me produce the opening, arrange and produce the opening to El Dorado and the song at hand, So I Can See Clearly Now, and I played guitar in Shrek for some of those guys, Harry, and I auditioned to play with Mark Shaman's band. At one point he was going to be the music director, a leader of the band for Martin Short's TV show, right? Yeah. And I got the gig. So I quit the Bette Midler tour. I decided I wasn't going to go on the road anymore. And then, for whatever reason, he can talk about it. He just changed his mind. Maybe it was a business thing. So I lost out of the Bette Midler tour. And he called me and I said, hey, I lost the tour. He said, well, you want me to call her? I mean, I know her really well. And I said, I don't know, maybe it's meant to be. I kind of want to try this composing thing anyway, which led to me working for Jay Stutler, this new music supervisor at Disney, and he became my mentor, which led me to meet you guys, which gave me the biggest job of my life, which was finishing for Stream of Consciousness. Thank you.
Laura, what is it like to see yourself in animation?
It's amazing. I have a huge musical theater background. I've done so many musicals because I started as dancing and I loved tap dance. And there's something about hearing the audience and being able to be on stage, but it's much cooler when all of your friends that have kids and you tell them, yeah, you know that song? That's me. And just seeing the kids' faces go, wow. That's one of the most rewarding things.
I'll just have to forget the hurt that came before.
I have a story. Tell me. I haven't thought about this in a million years. It involves movie City Slicker, so it literally was a million years ago. But there's a temp score in the movies where the editors put music that already exists so they can edit the movie, and it's always the bane of the existence of the composer to try to beat what they're used to hearing. And in this case, they had like some great Elmer Bernstein classic Western music, and this whole scene where there's a cattle, what is it called? When they go nuts?
Stampede.
Stampede. So, and I was like trying to rip off Elmer Bernstein. I can't write this kind of stuff. So I put it on pause. I was just sitting there going, I'll never be able to do this. So let me just clear my head. And I put on an Aretha Franklin record. And I was listening to it, and there's this great gospel record she made, Amazing Grace, and it was at this peak moment, and this is back when you put something on pause, it would start again in like 10 minutes. And I forgot, and so the TV came back on during the cattle stampede, and Aretha Franklin and all the girls were hallelujahing, and I was like, it works, because everyone's ready to like this. And so if you watch that movie, you'll see that I scored it with a gospel, like a crazy gospel.
What instrument do you guys score with most? Because a lot of you play more than one instrument.
I usually have, as a basic template, I mean, it doesn't sound very exciting, but piano and strings, and then I'll usually go out into my line room and just start creating textures over that and try to create some life. But the skeleton is usually strings and piano.
And when you say live room, what do you mean?
A room that I record live instruments in. So
How many different instruments do you play?
I've got a big collection of instruments, and when people come over to the studio, they say, "Do you know how to play all these instruments?" And I don't know if it makes sense what I say. I try to forget that I don't know how to play any of them.
Elizabeth, how did you become the voice, the ethereal voice that we hear in so many movies?
Well, it's a funny story. I used to be a dancer, and my sister was also a dancer. And she asked me to play piano for some of the ballet classes she was in Boston. So I started to do that when I was around 18. And then I moved to Los Angeles and played for some dance companies here. I was playing for a modern dance company, and in the next room was Hans Zimmer's assistant, playing for another dance class. I used to sing when I played for the dance classes. He heard me. He came over to the studio and said, "Have you ever sung for film? Do you know who Hans Zimmer is? Would you like to do a session for him?" And I said, "Who's Hans Zimmer?" Don't tell him that, though. So the next day I started 2 solid weeks of 12-hour sessions for Hans on my first film. And it was just word of mouth after that.
I think it was Trevor that had a piece with Elizabeth singing in there. How does that come about when you feel like I really need some Oz, but I want something very human in here?
This is a great story. So I'm in LA about 5 minutes. I'm pitching a little movie, and I called up one of the 3 people I knew and said, "I'm listening to this score by James Newton Howard called A Perfect Murder. And there's this beautiful voice. Do you know anyone who can sing anything like this? Because I need someone for a demo for my project." Because I went to choir school as a kid, so I have affinity for the human voice and all that stuff. So sure, this girl, she'll come over, Elizabeth. I'm like, "Hey, you know." So she comes over. You know the story, that's right. So she comes over, and I'm playing her the score. This is sort of like there's an ethereal quality of this thing. I'm basically saying the closest you can get to this person's voice would be better for me. We did the whole session. At the end, I kind of turned the CD over and realized that she's the one who sang. And I'm not sure whether I had my poker face on or
How close did she get to it?
So you spent the entire recording not telling him that was your voice to begin with.
Yeah, but actually, I sort of unapologetically tried to hire Elizabeth on every project I ever do, because I just think that, you know, I mean, I'm a big fan of soloists in general, but specifically the voice, because I'm a fan of what the human voice does. And if I can't have a human voice, I usually use a lot of woodwinds because they have the breath quality to them, or trumpets, things you breathe through. To me, are the closest to the human voice. That's why there's a lot of those on my scores. But I have a big sort of soft spot for the human voice. And Elizabeth in particular is pretty much the only person who's ever sang on my music. So I'm grateful that you went from dancing to singing.
Tell us how you got your big break, because a lot of people here may be people who want to eventually do this for a living, and what was the process of actually getting your first big gig?
Well, I had a career as a singer-songwriter, record maker, and I got a call from a guy who had made his first film, Paul Thomas Anderson, and he had this film called Sydney at the time, which became Part 8. And he, for some reason, thought I could score movies. And I, for some reason, thought, well, I don't want to do that because that's the family business, and I want to avoid the family business. So I ignored him for about a year, but he kept persisting and calling me, and so I finally went and I saw the film, and I thought it was great. And he convinced me that I had an aptitude for it, so I just kind of kept doing it. Which was lucky, since the music business is now gone.
So your suggestion to get a job in scoring films and the like, you should first get a hit record on the radio.
Yes,
that's easy.
You make a note.
Okay. Did Revenge get you the gig on Shameless?
Actually, it was the other way around. I was already doing Shameless, but I think Revenge sort of became a big thing. And plus, it's Shameless is a really fun gig to do every week. It's just a rock band. We go knock it out in a day. Like the producers on here, are they? 3 days, 4 days. And Revenge is a live orchestra every week. So that my job there basically entails clinging on for dear life, and I don't die. So I guess the two of them combined were kind of like great.